I feel like you guys know me as someone who is just extremely intelligent, knows everything about history, and I will already know these facts aren't real. And that's a spoiler, because today we're gonna be watching completely wrong facts that you may still believe. I love history facts that aren't real.
History facts that are wrong.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna guess. The pyramids were built by slaves. In reality, they're built by aliens.
This is probably one of the first things we all learned about in school when discussing ancient Egypt. Tens of thousands of slaves enduring endless hours of intense, forced physical labor while barely being fed or provided with adequate water. Drop a sack of sand, chisel something at the wrong angle, devout masochist, you're getting a whipping. Well, it's all poppycock. While there were slaves, they were mainly prisoners of war or household servants who tended to their landlords, but they weren't really part of the main labor force.
Damn.
Instead, laborers in ancient Egypt were conscripted using the corvée duty system, a way to pay off taxes through manual labor. According to the book The Pyramid Builders of Ancient Egypt, which discusses the pyramid builders of ancient Egypt, farmers were usually pulled from their laborious crop dusting for construction work whenever the Nile went all floody during the summer months. While the snobby rich upper class folk avoided manual labor by just paying off their tax burden, them smelly poors were tasked with construction of temples, tombs, and pyramids. Laborers who worked on the pyramids, as well as other large structures way back in the ancient times, were actually well provided for. This makes sense as having a...
Where do the aliens come in? I feel like waiting for that part where they drop that. But honestly, that's not that surprising, I feel like. I feel like the idea that they were paid also is a pretty big change, because it wasn't like they were living awesome lives. So they were paid, but they were working through tax write-offs, pretty much. I feel like that's pretty much what they're saying.
Labor force due to neglect or malnourishment.
Maybe we are the aliens.
Doesn't really pay great
true.
dividends. Can't exactly move giant rocks when you're completely emaciated. Small villages have been discovered built specifically for housing laborers. These sites also contain various animal bones and plentiful bread jars showing a high-quality diet. But of course, the system wasn't perfect. Thanks to some classic upper-class corruption, sometimes things didn't always go right for these laborers, but they had the power to stand their ground. Dating all the way back to 1170 BC, written evidence has been found of an artisan's strike while constructing a tomb
there were strikes back then?
The artisans complained about a lack of promised rations and outright refused to continue.
Zeus looks like an alien. Just want to point that out. The kind of shit I deal with.
Their work, dropping their chisels and their hammers to march right up to the ruling class's temples to make their demands. What do we want? Food! When do we want it? Food! After chit-chatting with the local vizier, the workers were able to secure the rations and continued their work. Now don't get me wrong, the labor that these guys endured was back-breaking, extremely strenuous, and downright exhausting. But they weren't outright enslaved or mistreated, as historians previously thought.
Wait. Is this the Sphinx? Is that what he really looks like underground? Okay, no. Wait. That's not the Sphinx. Sorry. Is this all about Egypt? Oh, no. It's just... This one's about Egypt. Just what? No, I realized I made a mistake. I made a grave error. I made a grave error. It's my fault. My bad. It's Sue Gem. Don't hit Sue Gem. Don't hit Sue Gem right now. My fault. King Tut's tomb is cursed. Is that like not true? Like, yeah, I don't believe it's actually cursed. Is that the whole thing? It's like...
We've all heard the legends about King Tut's
I actually haven't heard a legend about King Tut's tomb.
Burial grounds, you'll be cursed, doomed to die a horrible death. Well, it's not so. You'd probably cough a bit from inhaling millennial-old mummy powder, but that's about it. Now, there has been evidence of some ancient tombs inscribed with curse-like carvings.
The game.
For example, ancient warlord and Egyptian
I just fucking lost. I just lost, and all of you guys just lost, by the way. What's up, Anto? How are you doing?
Tifi wrote that, quote, any ruler who shall do evil or wickedness to his coffin, may the gods not accept any goods he offers, and may his heir never inherit. Similarly, an inscription on the tomb of 10th century BC ruler Kentika Ikeki warns that any impure man
you got a Bucci cat.
There will
what
be judgment,
does that even mean?
An end shall be made for him. I shall seize his neck like a bird, and I shall cast the fear of myself into him. Now, in a culture that was super superstitious, anyone coming across warnings like that would be like, oh shit, a ghost! Prompting them to 180 right out of the room. When King Tut's tomb was discovered in 1922,
they're just breaking it open.
reprimands or warnings were ever found. In reality, the rumor of King Tut's curse revolves around one George Edward Stanhope.
Bro, I bet he said it's a curse because there's so much gold in there that he didn't want anyone else to go into it.
Molyneux Herbert, 5th Earl of Carnarvon, a rich English white dude who funded the
George Edward Stanhope Molyneux Herbert, 5th Earl of Carnarvon? What?
whole expedition that led to the discovery of the Sandy sarcophagus. He died a whole 4 months after the opening of the tomb. After which a journalist
he actually died
and printed a whole bunch of sensationalized fake news attributing Lord Carnarvon's death
W
to an
article,
inexplicable curse. To no surprise, the media ran with it, making claims of a written curse being uncovered with the tomb, though this never happened. So how did Lord Carnarvon die?
Story.
He done got bit by a mosquito.
Molly, I found a really good game that you should play.
The resulting bump was accidentally slashed while he was shaving, making a pretty nasty cut that later got infected.
Dude, he died of shaving?
Blood poisoning at the age of 56. Dedicated believers have tried to attribute other deaths to the curse, but they're really grasping for straws. Of the 58 people who were present at the opening of the tomb, only 8 had died within a dozen years of the discovery, and by various means ranging from cancer to murder to natural causes. The majority of the men went to live on full, healthy lives. At least they didn't steal any spooky slabs. That might have been a different story.
Spartans threw babies off a cliff. What a history facts are these, bro? I don't remember hearing any of these facts. Spartans were throwing babies off cliffs? Or they weren't, I guess.
Probably think about the slippery, shiny hunks of warrior man meat as portrayed on the silver screen. A society of strict and viciously trained bloodthirsty warriors who could decimate any opposing army. But while you're thinking about oiled up, shirtless, muscular men, you might question if this portrayal is historically accurate. It's not. In reality, the Greek city-state of Sparta had no professional army. Although growing up with militaristic training, the purpose was not to create warriors, but perfected, hardened, and respectable citizens who could serve to defend their homeland if need be. That little element of perfection is where some rumors of Spartan eugenics come in. It is believed that ancient Spartans practiced infanticide, the act of killing deformed or undesired babies as a way to strengthen the Spartan society. However, the biggest downfall of this myth is that there's only one historical source that alludes to this barbaric practice, and it's this guy, Roman historian Plutarch.
How do you know if a baby is gonna be fucking Giga Chad and 6'4" and strong? Like, just because he's big? Like, there's been plenty of babies that like me. Like, I was a smaller baby, but then I come out and I'm 6'3", 245 pounds of muscle, and you usually wouldn't have guessed that from seeing me.
He wrote that Spartan elders would examine newborns for imperfections or weaknesses. Good. Bad, good. What the?
Hello,
Daddy. If any were ever found, they would just yeetus the fetus off the Taygetus mountainside. This ensured that only the best of the best would be able to thrive to crush adulthood.
Don't freak out.
This bit of literature is almost certainly a bunch of baloney. While historians can't confirm with 100% certainty, they can confirm with 99.9% certainty that this just flat out never happened. Excavations around the proposed baby hucking sites have failed to present any supporting evidence.
Dude, there's not 400,000 bear
remains
babies
discovered, but no teeny tiny toddler tibias were ever among them. If you needed more convincing, Plutarch's writings date some 600 years after the height of Spartan civilization.
Wait, that's a Hunger Games reference. Hunger Games reference.
So it might have just been some silly Spartan slander.
I just watched that
would be like
movie
if future archaeologists in the year 4000 unearthed fan fiction from today about how medieval Europeans would just shit their britches to ward off witches. Sure, it's questionable, but you can kind of see that. Right? Despite what you may think, death was not the goal of gladiators.
Really? Bro, I swear that was the only point. But I guess it makes sense, because then why would you really want to fight in a gladiator ring? You're just going to fucking die. I guess that makes sense.
Colosseum. If it was, Rome would have run out of them real quick. Now keep in mind that the Colosseum was active for over 400 years, hosting a plethora of different events ranging from gladiator battles to public criminal executions to full-fledged naval battle reenactment.
Okay, the naval battles, bro, I would be sat for, bro. Are you kidding me? If they had this shit nowadays and it was real and they had like actual, like they made a fucking lake and had 3 boats and they said, whoever has the last ship standing, like, wins, I would be sat, bro. I would do the 9 hot dogs, 9 beers, 9 innings challenge. Wait, should I do that in real life? Should I go to a baseball game and IRL stream it and just do the 9 beers, 9 hot dogs, 9 innings?
With the entire Coliseum
That'd be
being
so
flooded.
Funny.
Pretty wild, right? Well,
Are
gladiator.
you allowed to do that? Are you allowed to like stream off your phone if you're not showing the game? I wouldn't show the baseball game at all. It would just be facing me as I just eat a million fucking hot dogs.
Battles were basically the equivalent of today's UFC or boxing matches, just with swords and spears instead of fists. These fights were spectacles of sport, and the gladiators were the athletes. You had some super famous gladiators, rookie gladiators, and everything in between. While some gladiators...
Was it like WWE? Was it like WWE? I wonder if it was just kind of like fake, but like close enough looking, maybe a couple cuts here and there, but like I feel like that wouldn't be that surprising.
Or slaves, criminals, or prisoners of war fighting for their chance of freedom. Most of the big old brutes fought for fame and fortune, or just the high-octane dopamine rush of being able to legally stab someone in the kidney and getting praised for it. Roman citizens were hyped to watch two dudes duke it out in a sweaty, sassy struggle of strength. But things were a lot more exciting than just the vanilla missionary position 9 to 5.
Oh my god, bro!
Defense, 1.5 children ass sword and shield type gladiators. Nope. Actually, there were about 30 different types of gladiators ready to clang and bang away at each other. You had your dual-wielding Demochirus.
I want to play.
This
makes me want to play half sword. I want to try half sword.
Looking Caesar and the alls-out, balls-out Cestus, among other DLC characters.
Alls-out, balls-out Cestus, bro. Bro, that's my fuck. That's an icon right there. Alls-out, balls-out. He just fucking he just punches with his balls out.
So imagine that
I respect that dude. What's up, Valentino?
Life, sitting in your boring Roman house, scratching your boring Roman balls when you suddenly catch wind of the gladiator battle of the century. Two andabate pitted against each other. You'd lose your shit. Why would you lose your shit? Because
it's like the Super Bowl, bro. Like, this is sick. This looks like AI art, but
Andabate were condemned criminals fighting each other completely blind. Yeah.
What? That's sick. I would literally watch that today, bro. But Epstein versus who else? Oh, Diddy. Epstein versus Diddy, but they're blindfolded. They can't fucking see, and they get a 5-inch blade. We all know Epstein's alive still, so if you're Epstein's dad, I knew you were gonna say some shit. Come on. Let's get real here, okay?
Punishment, two criminals equipped with nothing more than a sealed helmet and a rusty sword were dumped out into the arena and forced to square off. It's like watching two blindfolded kids trying to whack at a piñata, except they're both potential piñatas. Now, while
Palm Beach
formal gladiator duels were not to the death, of course some still died, but it was more common to die by bleeding out after the match had been called by the referee. Oh yeah, they had referees. These were often retired gladiators tasked with making sure that the rules of battle were being followed and stopping fights before final blows were dealt. You see, gladiators were expensive investments, so their managers wanted them alive for as long as possible.
He does not. Okay, Epstein does not live next door to me. That's not how I know. Okay.
Once they start all over, leveling up another rookie from scratch. So with all that being said, professional gladiator battles were not performed for the sake of death, just for the thrill of the fight and the potential of death.
Nero fiddled as Rome burned. I feel like I've actually heard this story before. Is that not real?
Ancient myths are tough for modern historians
to interpret. It does sound fake, though, if I think about it.
Historical writers across time have their own biases. Depending on how they felt about a certain historical figure, they could cement their legacy in history as a smart fella or a fart smella. The prevailing myth that Roman Emperor Nero diddled his fiddle as Rome burned to the ground is one that should go up in smoke. Dude. It's commonly believed that Nero, having descended into madness over the course of his reign, started the Great Fire of Rome in 64 AD, a disastrous and destructive inferno that destroyed nearly 3/4 of the Roman capital. Accusations claim that Nero didn't like the look of Rome and
I didn't know it was that big of a fire.
Wanted to rebuild it in his own vision with a lavish and gaudy golden palace. So a conveniently timed fire would have been a great opportunity to do so. The fire is suspected to have started in a shopping district stockpiled with flammable goods.
Of course.
Once the fire started, it was nearly impossible to contain. Rome was a dense city. Streets were narrow. Housing structures were...
That is so crazy to think about. Like, they didn't have firemen, bro. Like, this big-ass city, and if one person starts a fire, there's just nothing you can do. It's all over. Like, that's insane. How do they get rid of fires? They had me. Kobe.
And the wind was a-blowing. This set of conditions provided the perfect environment for the big old fire to really roar. The blaze lasted for 9 whole days, decimating 10 of Rome's 14 districts. But was Emperor Nero to blame? Not at all. According to Tacitus, one of the most influential Roman historians at the time, Nero was not near Rome when the fire started. He was actually several miles away in the coastal town of Antium, but he rushed back home to Rome once he caught wind of the disaster. When he did get back, Nero actually funded relief efforts and opened up private gardens and other structures for shelter to those affected. Despite these efforts, Nero still came under scrutiny from the nobles who hated him, claiming that he should have responded sooner and provided more assistance.
Freaking Nero, dude. I bet my scorched ass cheeks he started that fire himself. Yeah,
Ooh,
you're right. He probably
rumors.
did.
Guys, he was literally miles away in another city.
What did you do?
And that's how rumors start. In actual fact, there is no historical evidence that Nero started the fire, and especially no evidence that he played the fiddle when Rome burned. Mostly because the fiddle wouldn't be invented for another 900 years.
How is that overlooked, man? I feel like I've heard this story. How is that overlooked? The fact that a fiddle is not even invented. How is the story even have... Who made up the story? If the instrument wasn't even invented for 900 years after. I thought they would say 9 years. I thought, 9 years? Okay, 9 years later. That's not that crazy. I feel like you could maybe mix up the details, rounding error. 900 years. 900 years, bro. And how are we getting that? How are we getting to that point? It makes no sense.
It's probable that the claim is part of Christian propaganda, as Nero famously blamed them for the fire, leading to their persecution. So who really got the last laugh? Who is Nero?
I thought Romans were Christian, or they're Catholic? Was it Roman Catholic? I guess that makes sense.
He burned a lot of Christians.
I kind of thought they were the same. Ancient Aztecs thought Spaniards were gods. Yeah, I feel like I don't remember learning that. I feel like they thought of them as evil people that were coming to kill them and take all their stuff.
It's possible that your middle school history textbooks may have toyed with the idea that ancient Aztecs, or even the greater Mexican people as a whole, saw the invading Spanish conquistadors as godlike figures. More specifically, history has suggested that the Aztec ruler Moctezuma, or Montezuma, however you want to pronounce it, believed that the arrival of the Spanish coincided with the prophesied return of Quetzalcoatl, the Mesoamerican serpent god of creation. But we now know that it's all, as the Spanish say, a bunch of caca. It's certainly true that the native Mexican people were stunned and confused by the appearance of the foreign invaders with their fancy horses, gunpowder, and white skin, but there's no evidence explicitly stating that they were thought of as gods. Letters written by Hernan Cortés himself about his conquests never mention being mistaken for or being interpreted as a god in any way, shape, or form. And this is further supported by the...
Dude, that letter was so fucked.
As a god.
I plan on meeting their leader. I don't know. May kidnap him to take control. Like, I don't know if this is real, but that's just like actually, it sounds real.
Form. And this is further supported by the writings of Spanish conquistador Bernal Diaz del Castillo, who chronicled Cortez's conquests in real time. One passage highlights a conversation between Cortez and Moctezuma in the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan. Conversation basically had Moctezuma being like, yeah, people around here think I'm a god, that I'm all about gold and silver and precious stones, but look, you see that?
Why they have to fucking draw on his happy trail, man?
We're both the same.
Like we didn't
I know
need
that you're just a bunch of foreigners and not some otherworldly divine beings. That would just be silly. To which Cortez replied, so where did this idea come from? Well, it actually started to surface decades after the Aztecs were conquered. God. Publications of Spanish conquests alluded to the idea that Cortez and his men tried to pass their weapons off as magic and their horses off as intelligent, aggressive beasts. So it was mainly a sensationalized retelling of events, portraying the Mexican people as more feeble-minded, all while embellishing the Spanish image. As it turns out, the Aztec weren't bamboozled by some distrustful deity. The Spanish completely steamrolled the Aztec with the help of guns, alliances to Aztec rivals, and every European...
Dude, how are you gonna have guns and still the only way you win is by going with the rivals, bro? Like, you had guns and they didn't, and you still had to get help from rival clan. You still had to fucking gang up on them and jump them.
Explorer's iconic weapon, disease.
Yeah, disease was probably the craziest one.
Oh my god. And more, oh my god!
The 1929 market crash caused the Great Depression. Okay, I feel like they are gonna say some shit where it's like, the market crash didn't cause it, but because everyone went to withdraw their money out of the banks, and then there wasn't enough money in the banks, that is what caused the blah 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 to crash. And it's like, sure, but that's like point A, point B. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is something that's gonna learn, but that's like my prediction here is they're gonna be like, it wasn't the market crashing, it was everyone trying to get their money out. Which, like, yeah, but that's why people wanted to get their money out. It's because the market crashed. But we'll see. Maybe I'm a little uneducated on this.
The Great Depression was truly a financial disaster, not only for the US, but for the entire globe. Most of you out there might recall learning that the stock market crash of 1929 caused the Great Depression, but in reality, it was just the signal that shit had hit the financial fan. Nothing more than a devastating effect from a much more threatening underlying cause. If you're unaware, the world economy is a constant struggle for balance of supply and demand.
Supply and demand,
price
yes.
being the end result. Lots of demand and no supply, prices go up. Lots of supply but no buyers, prices go down. Sure, that's a bit oversimplified, but you get the idea. The Great Depression was a catastrophic chain of events stemming from U.S. overproduction of goods. You see, in the early 1920s, the world had entered a time of peace at the end of World War I. This led to an industrial boom. Not for war machines, but for consumer goods. Mass production was going wild, and factories were farting out new products like crazy. To sell these products, companies began aggressive advertising campaigns. The news, radio, magazines, and everything just screamed in your face to buy.
Coca-Cola is delicious. Bro, I wish I was a marketer back then, bro. Are you kidding me? It's so easy. They just put the fucking logo and said, is delicious. I'm a marketer in real life, and you guys don't know. That's my job, as being a marketer. Bro, I wish I was back then, bro. You just put the logo and say, it's delicious. Coca-Cola, delicious. That's it. And look at the brand went fucking crazy.
Stu Hickey. And the people did. But how could customers afford all of this lavish spending? Yep, the establishment of consumer credits. Cars, appliances, clothes, homes, all purchased
$200 for a car, by the way.
But the United
$500 for a house. Sorry, it just pissed me off a little bit.
States was not the only beneficiary of a peacetime economy.
What's up,
European
Shauna?
and Asian markets began producing their own goods, selling these products to the US for cheaper prices, which caught the eyes of consumers looking to save a few pennies here and there. The big American companies, seeing potential profits leaving their grubby hands, were pissed and lobbied Congress to protect their interests.
Tariffs.
In order
And they're like, okay, guys, we'll put a bunch of tariffs on.
to do so, the Fordney-McCumber...
And tariffs are so stupid! Tariffs are so stupid. They don't fucking help. They don't help. They don't help. They ruin everything, man. Tariffs just ruin everything. There's very few use cases of tariffs that actually can help a little bit, but they never actually ever used them in those ways.
Tariff of 1922 was passed. This raised American tariffs across the board, increasing the consumer cost of foreign goods as to thin out the competition and force Americans to buy American
because all that does is make this price go up to right here. That's all it does.
products. Europe and Asia promptly responded in kind, and soon a tariff war commenced.
Tariff war.
All this sounds a bit familiar, doesn't it?
So
now, in order to keep a super long story super short, here's what happened next. Demand shrank as American companies and farms overproduced their goods. Too much stuff and no one to buy it means less sales. Less sales means less profit for these companies, and with less company profit, that means they're going to start handing out some pink slips. With lots of people laid off, lots of people have less money to spend, so companies lose even more money. And if they lose enough of it, they go bankrupt. Now, when companies went bankrupt, at least back in the 1920s, the banks
that's probably pretty
failed.
tough.
And when the banks failed, people's money straight up vanished, thanks to the lack of FDIC insurance. Everyone loses their shit and rushes to withdraw money from whatever banks are still standing, but there's not enough physical cash to meet that demand. Now, all of a sudden, no one has money. So what happened to it all? The banks lent it out to all the rich people, placing speculative bets on the stock market. Now, when there's a lot of market speculation, stock market prices get unreasonably high. Unreasonably high prices aren't very sexy, so no one else wants to buy them. Instead, they sell.
Don't worry, Saoirse, we're gonna play soon.
But when these profits are taken, that stock price drops. When stock prices drop, any remaining shareholders lose potential profit, which is no bueno. So they panic sell whatever shares they have. And when there's enough seller momentum across the board, the entire stock
market, I think it was bloop. AI soon. AI soon, guys.
So banks have failed, blue-collar workers have lost their life savings overnight, millionaires have lost their fortunes, factories have folded, and farmers have hung up their tools. Not only did this cripple the United States, but the entirety of global trade. The United States could not meet critical export demands, and foreign economies selling raw materials such as sugar, rubber, and lumber lost their biggest customer, and thus most of their money, impacting their economies. The Great Depression was without doubt one of the worst economic disasters of the modern age. The American economy struggled until the United States entered World War II in 1941, where demand for production and labor picked right back up. To put it simply, the 1929 stock market crash did not cause the Great Depression. It was the writing on the wall that the system was breaking. Afterward, the banking system...
But I kind of disagree that it, like, I guess it didn't cause it, but it's like that happening was like dominoes coming down. So at a certain point, you could make a point that it did really cause an economic recession, and that the other parts were just signals on the wall. Like
was overhauled, and the stock market heavily regulated to prevent
attributed to it. Yeah, like
itself.
it was part of the dominoes.
We'll see how that goes. Well, that's the end of this video.
It was part of the dominoes that went. What the hell is this thumbnail, bro? This is how I imagine some of y'all, bro. Anyways, good video. I actually like that. So, W Chat History. That's a really good video.